I hope you are all able to join us. This room is filled with roughly 15 people here at Leiden University in The Hague. And this is, well, one of those knowledge sessions of the China Knowledge Network. Welcome. We're going to talk about the topic in a second. I just want to make clear that the China Knowledge Network knowledge sessions in multiple was for a year. From this year, starting this year, we do it every month on a fixed time and a fixed date. So every second Tuesday between 9 and 10, there is a knowledge session organized by the China Knowledge Network. My name is Huang. I'm the executive director of the Leiden Asia Center, and a pleasure to have you all here. Yeah, the format of the session is the same every time. Doors open at 8:45. We should be starting around 9. Now there's a slight delay again due to technical difficulties. Then we will start the keynote, which today will be held by Dr. Huang Qian, and then there's a discussion by Carwyn Morris, and followed by Q&A, and then at 10 o'clock there's the end of the session. So Xiaohongshu is what we're going to talk about. A couple of topics that I saw pass by in the great list that you curated about this topic. Happy to live a single life, refusing appearance anxiety, beauty, Hong, and e-commerce. I mean, those are just a couple of topics and themes that are discussed at Hong. And the big question is, what do discussions like those tell us about China in 2025? And we've invited Dr. Huang to talk about this. She's a great expert about this. This is a quick summary of her CV. Basically, she did a bachelor's and a master's in English, international relations, communication and media in Beijing and Hong Kong. Then taught English literature and other topics in Beijing. Did her PhD in Rotterdam, and now she is working in Groningen for the past 2 years as an assistant professor. I mean, first as a lecturer and then assistant professor in the Center for Media and Journalism Studies at Groningen University. And interests are, among others, many others, digital vigilantism and now also Hong. Then, so Dr. Huang will first do a presentation, then we will have Carwyn Morris from UK, studied Chinese in Leeds, then did a whole bunch of stuff that I was not going to summarize, but it's a checkered record, let's say, with teaching and consulting and research at various institutions. It's a very interesting CV.
2006, that's a long time ago.
I know. You have a very extensive CV. And then since for the past 3 years, been working in Leiden as assistant professor of digital China, and also curated a list of the Hong Kong topics and articles that have appeared together with Dr. Huang. So without further ado, I'd like to invite you to do your talk. For this, we're going to have to switch to another platform, I believe. This is something that I'm going to let you be the director of.
Yeah.
There we go. And if you need any help clicking, then just tell us. Great. So, close. Good.
Thank you, Flores, for the invitation, and also thank you, Carwyn, for curating the list together with me. Without you, I don't think we will be invited to do this. But yeah, so as introduced by Flores, Huang Qian, and so Qian is my first name, Huang is my last name. And so today I'm going to do kind of a brief introduction about what we can learn from Xiaohongshu, and also some of the mechanisms on Xiaohongshu as well. And if you have any further questions, more in-depth inquiries about the specific topic, feel free to ask me and Carwyn during the Q&A or afterwards. So first of all, I want to briefly talk about what is Xiaohongshu. I know a lot of you probably know already, but there is a kind of a rich history to the platform itself. So it was established in 2013. And at the beginning, it was very much focused on overseas shopping. So at the beginning, it was named Xiaohongshu 出境购物攻略. So it's actually a guide for shopping overseas for the Chinese people. And in 2014, they changed it into Xiaohongshu 购物笔记. So that is Xiaohongshu shopping notebook. So what you can see is that from the get-go, it is a very, very commercial and very focused on shopping platform. And it slowly transitioned into a lifestyle platform, and then, but still very much focusing on driving the consumption and business. And that is why you will see a very much focused algorithm and also kind of a content moderation system that is very much tailored to that need. And I will explain that a little bit more. And so you can also see from its slogan changing. It started with find good stuff abroad, right? So it's very much focused on you need to find something to buy, and then good stuff around the world. So now it's not only abroad, you also want to find shopping stuff in China. And then it becomes good life around the world. So it's not about shopping anymore, it's about lifestyle. And then most recent, the tagline will be mark or tag my life, 标记我的生活. And if you take a look at the composition of its users, it's very much female dominated. So 70% are female users and then 30% are male. So this is very skewed. So what you will see is also in the TikTok refugee trend, there was a lot of emphasis on this is a very female-friendly platform, and this is exactly why. It's a pretty young platform. 72% are under age of 35. So what you can see is also that half of the users are located in first or second tier cities in China or abroad. So what you can see is basically it's a composition of young, middle class buyers who with great purchasing power on this platform. So that is why this platform is very much geared towards middle class lifestyle and also consumption driven. So as I said, accordingly, its content moderation and algorithmic and also the content creator management are very much based on this commercial logic and compliant to the state regulation and campaigns. What do I mean by that? So I get a little bit of I take some screenshots of its community guidelines. I will briefly summarize. I'm not going to go through everything, but basically, in general, it's set up as guidelines, but it's basically a rules of what kind of content will be regulated and what kind of behavior is tolerated and allowed. So what you can see is that there are certain things are very much like a reactive approach to what happened and what the government dislike in the past. So the first thing is called don't show off your wealth. Okay, so there is a little bit of a history about that. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. So the second one is do not spread misinformation. And then the third one is very interesting, which is do not over Photoshop. So it's really about do not misguide your consumers and mislead them to think that your product looks a certain way. So that is, and then I would like to go for here, which I want to direct your focus into the third one, which says like, please make sure that you, the transaction is within the platform in order to protect the benefits or the rights of each side. So this is very different from the Western platforms because Western platforms, if you look at Instagram or YouTube, their money scheme, the monetization scheme is very different. It is per 1,000 click and per 1,000 view, and then you get the royalties. But for Xiaohongshu, you don't really get money from your content. Instead, you get money from transaction within the platforms. So you can they have built-in shops where they will get commission fee. The platform will take commission fee. So they encourage all of the transactions happen on the platform, happen within the platform. And therefore you can, so there is a behavior that is regarded as not tolerated by the platform, which is called 引流, meaning that you use Xiaohongshu as a platform and then try to get your customers to other platforms. So that is not allowed. Therefore, you cannot post your WeChat numbers, you cannot post your email accounts, nothing on the platform. So this is a very commercial driven logic in the content management. And then, so myself, I am also a content creator on the platform, just trying to do some autoethnography. Carwyn joked that I am a Wanghong, but I have 6,000 followers, but I don't see myself as a Wanghong. But I have kind of like backdoor to what it looks like for the content creators. So what you can see is that I have no money there, right? Because I don't monetize my content. But what you see is that it is very much, it's called my collaboration, my evaluation. This is called tutorials. So how the content creators can learn how to get money from it, from this platform. And this is called my hashtags or my labels. And then of course, I only have one label, which is I study abroad. And you can have a lot more different labels, for example, mom, I don't know, professor or something like that, but they have specific label management. So this is your price. If you want to do a advertisements, and you have to do it within the platform. So the deal has to be struck on the platform. And then of course this is my suggested price of my advertisement. So for per picture notes that I post, I will get 1,000 yuan. And then for a video, I get 500. I don't know, like, so these are just what the platform told me. I have never get any money from this platform. So these are just some introduction about how this platform looks like and how its content moderation and also economic scheme looks like. And then what I want to also highlight is that Xiaohongshu is very, very popular. And then it's popular not just because it is the equivalence of Instagram or Pinterest. Is not because of that. It is more than a social media platform nowadays. It has become the one main search engine in China. So as you all know, Baidu is not performing that well. So because they has a lot of advertisements, and then Chinese people start to lose faith in them. So normally when they try to search some useful information, if you type in, I don't know, like a certain symptoms, let's say a health complaint, you probably get a full page of recommendation of hospitals or advertisements instead of the real recommendations or real solutions.
In the last 5 years, search has gone down from around 90% in 2019 to only 70% of Chinese internet users use typical search engines now. That compares to over 90% in Europe and Anglophone speaking countries. So there's been a dramatic decline over the last 5 years in search engine use, which search engine use doesn't include social search, which is something like this.
Yeah, exactly.
70, but it was from 90%-ish down to 70%.
Yeah. And then if you take the number into account, right, it is quite a dramatic drop.
So what was it? Just a quick follow-up question. What does that tell you that it's gone down?
Meaning that there are alternatives, and then people are turning away from Baidu, the traditional kind of search engine, and they're actually going to social media platforms for information. And this is what Xiaohongshu has been providing for the Chinese community. And so that is something that I want to, like, it's one of the takeaways I want you to get, is that it's more than just a social media platform. It's more than just sharing content. It becomes a platform where people search for information. And there have been 2 or 3 research papers about it in Chinese, but I am actually reviewing one article right now who's also talking about this. So what I want to do is list 4 types of content that or informations that people find it very useful, or at least to me, might be biased because it's based on my own algorithmic recommendations. So what you can see is that, first of all, where to visit, where to eat, and where to take photos. And so these are very much related to the tourism. And I think Carwyn can talk a lot more about that because his expertise in Wanghong, Dhaka, and also all this urbanization that related to the Wanghong economy. So if you go to Xiaohongshu and search for Haiya, for The Hague, and then you will find a lot of recommendations, and maybe you can try afterwards. So the other type of content you get, absolutely, which is the fashion and beauty advice and product recommendations. And this is very easy to understand because it started as a shopping platform. So this is a kind of integral part of this platform. And then you also have a lot of practical information about study and life and live how to live abroad. So people will expose renting scams. People also give you a very full guidelines of how to, let's say, get things done with Chemitter. So all these kind of information are there. So if you just search for Chemitter The Hague, you probably get quite a lot of information as well. So that is also why it becomes a very useful platform. And then, of course, there are quite a lot of recipes and DIY manuals. So how do you do renovations by yourself? And then also how do you cook Chinese food, especially if you're abroad? So there's a lot of very good recipes. I have a whole list of that recipe. So these are just some of the examples of what kind of useful information you can get on Xiaohongshu, and that is exactly why it is very popular. So but the other thing is that in the title of this today, right, is how the big revolution about China in 2025 from Xiaohongshu. And then these are some of the trends that I think are very interesting to keep tab on. So the first one is the gender-related debates. So a lot of times people might think that feminism and also LGBTQ issues are not discussed or are completely oppressed in China, but actually on Xiaohongshu there are quite a lot of debates there. You can see a lot of feminism discussions. What does it mean to be a feminist? Do we need to get married or not? But what does it mean to be dink? All these kind of debates are happening on Xiaohongshu. And there are a lot of discussion about beauty standards, and there's specifically there is a discussion about 服美役, meaning that you serve your beauty duty. Basically meaning that women have to do quite a lot of work to remain beautiful across contact, and that's regarded as a extra labor for women. So those are the discussions happening on Xiaohongshu. The other thing that I think we should also pay attention to, it is a big trend of the revival of traditional Chinese culture. So this probably has something to do with the official narrative of the cultural confidence, 文化自信. So there's a huge wave of content creators are tap into that. And then, for example, they create content about intangible cultural heritage. The representative content creator will be Li Ziqi. So this is a very common phenomenon already, but there is a whole category, a whole genre of content creators are doing very similar things. And especially when a TikTok refugee comes in, there were a lot of the algorithm actually start to push more of these type of contents, and there you can also see it from the Chinese people's comments saying that, oh, I didn't see this content before the wave of TikTok refugees. Now the platform, now you know what to do, right? So this is what I have seen on the platform, and also the other type is new Chinese style, Xinguofeng and Hanfu. So these are the fashion trends. If you go to Xiaohongshu and also go to Taobao as well, you will see an increasing number of shops and designers are tapping into the traditional dressing style. And of course, big thing is the Chinese anime, C-drama, video games, so entertainment content, and specifically probably in the past 2 weeks, the most trendy thing will be Ne Zha. So the anime that's kind of like getting quite a lot of tickets, and C-drama. So that is kind of like another line that has some changes. Specifically, they are tapping into traditional cultural heritage and also the Chinese Hanfu as well. One good example in the past several months is 国色方法. So it's a C-drama that's supposed to be in the Tang Dynasty, and that was very, very popular. And then specifically, they were praised for their authenticity to replicate supposedly the town culture and also the outfits, the makeup, and everything. And then the other thing that happens, the other thing that's very trendy, maybe in the past half year to a year, and even longer time ago, which is the black myth Wukong. So that is also a huge topic on Xiaohongshu as well, discussing whether it is how to say, like, so there are a lot of controversies about the CEOs and the executives being misogynistic. So there was a lot of discussion about that, and then also discussions about the cultural confidence, about Chinese elements are the best, all these kind of things. So the other type of content that I see a lot, but probably this is also biased because of my own algorithm, is the shared experience of anti-China sentiments or perceived disrespects. A lot of overseas students are talking about their experiences being mistreated by their professors or colleagues because they're Chinese. And then there was a lot of calling out events happened on that. So one thing that is one event that captured a lot of attention, which is an MIT professor in a AI conference, basically used that slide and saying that Chinese students are dishonest and no one taught them morals. So she got doxxed, and yeah, I think there was a lot of harassment and there was a lot of reporting to the institution as well. The last thing I want to highlight, which is a discussion about mental health and also well-being. Specifically, there were a lot of discussion about work stress, working conditions, like you probably all know the 996, the extreme working hours and all that. And then they jokingly talk about themselves as 牛马, as the ox and the horses. So these are all the discussions happening on Chinese platforms, on Xiaohongshu specifically. And then there's also a group of people who are trying to talk about 原生家庭, talking about family drama or family trauma. So that was also a big topic when people realized that the parental relationship might not be that good in the traditional Chinese context. And of course, there were various types of therapy from the very scientific, psychological, and psychiatrist therapy to the more new age type of meditation, things like that, right? So these are all I think these are the unseen part of Chinese internet or under-discussed Chinese social media cultures that we should pay attention to. And this demonstrates what will be interesting for the observers, researchers, or policymakers to pay attention to. And then, of course, we cannot really ignore the fact that the TikTok refugee caused kind of like a really big shift in how the platform view itself, and also how the Chinese government view the platform as well. And you probably have read quite a lot of newspaper articles that basically says that praise Xiaohongshu for being a good window for the foreigners to view the real China. So being praised by the official media, you will see that there are challenges coming with these praises as well. So one thing is this business model and influencer industry ecology. What do I mean by that? I specifically talk about its ecology from the beginning, which is all of the monetization system happen within the platform, and it is done by endorsements, by brand deals. So there is no payment per view. So that is completely different from YouTube mechanism and also TikTok mechanism. And that is why it is very hard for Xiaohongshu to retain the OG TikTokers who might think about migrate to this platform because their monetization system might be completely ruined. So that's something the platform need to think about. But of course, at this moment, it has been around like a month since the TikTok refugee trend, and we already see kind of a retreat of the TikTokers, and partially because TikTok is not completely banned in the US. So the other issue is the user account registration. As you all know, if you're in China, you need to register social media account with your phone number that is affiliated to your ID card, and that is not the case for overseas accounts. So that has some governance issues. And then the other thing is the content. The other challenge is the content moderation of non-Chinese content. And you might have seen some news about basically right before the Spring Festival, the company released several job advertisements and asking for English, Spanish, all these kind of different languages, content moderators, right? So that is the amount of effort they need to make in order to make this platform still compliant to the government, but at the same time, potentially being international. And the final thing is the algorithmic recommendation system. So this has several aspects. I'm not going to dive too deep into that, but in general, it's about what kind of content you promote, because algorithm is never neutral. And then especially for a lot of Chinese users, Chinese overseas users who are complaining that, such as me, I complain as well. I don't see Chinese content anymore for a while. Yeah, when the TikTok refugee trend happens, I don't see Chinese content anymore, and that is where I go back to my root, or I want to get exposed to more of the Chinese social media content for research and for my life as well. But because of the geolocations and the recommendation system, I only see TikTok refugee content, right? But that has passed. Now I get my Chinese content back. But that is also, that's just one example of that algorithmic governance or recommendation system. My need to adapt to the new trend of the international users flocking into the platform. So if you want to know more, I think I am at the time. So if you want to know more, feel free to take a look at the reading list that Carwyn and I compiled. So we have listed alphabetic order, but also in specific themes. So what we can see is that how Xiaohongshu interact with urban landscape, and then gender issues, health and aging, algorithms and affordances, labor, fashion and aesthetic, marketing, business, intercultural, transnational communication, migration, and governance and governmentality. So these are, this list is a living list. So Carwyn and I are still updating from time to time. And we have been also listing the non-academic source. So the reports, the news media agencies who have been reporting on Xiaohongshu even before TikTok trend. And then we also list several researchers that you might be interested in contacting if you are interested in the platform. But these are only the ones that give us permission to share their names. If you can, of course, just go back to the literature and then see who are the researchers. And then we also list quite a few other related research resources. So feel free to tap into that. And that's pretty much what I want to say. And then I would like to give the floor to Carwyn so that he can share more about the global aspects of Xiaohongshu. Do you have slides?
No, I don't have slides. I'm going to speak for as little as possible. So you can ask some questions if you have any. And yeah, if you saw my picture earlier, I only have one set of clothes. It's the same as the picture there. I think that, so I've been doing research on Xiaohongshu probably since 2015. I started doing, when I worked as a brand strategist and a cultural consultant in Shanghai in around 2015, we were already doing research on Xiaohongshu as a commercial space. We were already recommending Xiaohongshu for a lot of brands because it tapped into something within Chinese society and culture that we couldn't get at within other social media and other spaces. So in the imaginaries of within certain business and industries, and also with an understanding that this is quite a gendered, quite a commercial-driven space. That's been around for at least 10 years. And over the years, I've been asked by European and American brands and companies about what is Xiaohongshu, or what is Red or Little Red Book over time. So in a certain way, there's been an interest in this for a while. I'm mostly gonna then talk about why I think Xiaohongshu is interesting now in a global sense. And to do that, you have to reflect on other Chinese applications. So in academia anyway, there's a discussion of apps or platforms as infrastructure to do stuff. There's a lot of people talking about that. WeChat is an infrastructure in a sense. It's a social, it's a cultural infrastructure, but it also means so many services are built into WeChat that you can completely engage with the city through WeChat in different ways. Now, WeChat functions globally. If you are on WeChat and you want to stay in your instant messaging groups, you can do that. Different users are censored or governed or moderated differently, depending on what telephone number is associated with their account and how WeChat understands them. But ostensibly, if you used WeChat in China, you can pretty much normally use WeChat globally as well. The issue is that WeChat is a very private space. You only engage with people within who you're in mutual friend connections with, or who you're in some smaller WeChat groups with, or in the social media space of it. Again, that's related to your networks. It's very difficult to have a publicly oriented discussion with that. Then you have other apps like Douyin, which is the OG TikTok, the Chinese father of TikTok. Douyin doesn't work well globally. You can still use it globally. You can still use Kuaishou. You can still use Bilibili. A variety of Chinese applications you can still use globally. But as you move more globally, it becomes more difficult to use this application globally. The Chinese networks or social media that you can engage with publicly are kind of hardwired into China. It's more difficult to use them as a global user. That influences what content gets onto them. It influences how you can talk about foreign cities, foreign things, foreign life, moving around the world, engaging with the world. All of those main Chinese social media apps don't function well globally. That also means a lot of people move over to Instagram. Instagram is a space where there's a lot of activist potential, but there's a lot of people discussing things that they can't easily discuss on standard Chinese social media. And for many people, Instagram was the global social media. Chinese users would leave the Chinese ecosystem and use Instagram. That sort of limits it because domestic users can't use Instagram very well. So there's an inherent barrier in communication and in engagement and sharing there. And then you have Telegram or something like that. I've been using Telegram with my interlocutors from China for many years because it was a good space or Signal where we could have anonymous and hidden conversations that were more sensitive. But again, that's private spaces. You can't engage in public communications there. So that private public thing, that small scale, large scale thing, that's where Xiaohongshu comes in. Xiaohongshu is publicly oriented. You can have large scale conversations on Xiaohongshu. You can continue to engage with domestic Chinese and global Chinese users, but it's readily accessibly globally. You can use it very easily wherever in the world you are. That's led to it becoming this digital space for the Chinese who want to engage abroad, but for people abroad who want to engage back to China, they use that service. That could be one of my friends from Gansu province who's never come to Europe before. He came on a he went on a tour organized by himself and his wife last year, and they organized the entire thing through Xiaohongshu. They had collected maybe 500 different posts about what to do. They had engaged with Taobao services to buy tickets, all through Xiaohongshu users. The whole thing was planned through Xiaohongshu. So a lot of Chinese who are looking to go abroad, they are now using Xiaohongshu to organize the entire thing, because it's understood as a space of reliable content, maybe, or at least, honest content. That leads on to another thing. So my research recently is on Dusseldorf, the great Dusseldorf, where if you want to go for food, that's a good space to go to. So Dusseldorf is around Duisburg. Duisburg is the end of the China-Europe rail connection for the BRI. Duisburg and Dusseldorf, nobody really wants to work or live in Duisburg, so a lot of them live in or around Dusseldorf. Dusseldorf is home to a number of large Chinese companies' European offices and headquarters, or regional ones. Huawei, Xiaomi, Minmetal, Vivo, long list of companies all located around Dusseldorf. That has led to Dusseldorf becoming a new space of Chinese restaurants, Chinese culture, and Chinese business. Through Xiaohongshu, when I'm in Amsterdam, I'm pushed content about Dusseldorf. I'm in this sort of hedonistic space where there's a lot of food, there's a lot of partying, there's a lot of tourism. I'm in Amsterdam and I'm being told to go to Dusseldorf. I'm not being told to go to Rotterdam. I'm not being told to go to Leiden, The Hague. I'm not even being told to go to Cologne or somewhere like that. Go to Dusseldorf. So through Xiaohongshu globally, and Dusseldorf is just one example of this, but through Xiaohongshu, there's a whole different cultural geography of Europe emerging on Xiaohongshu, which is so different to the cultural geography visible on Instagram. Instagram is telling you about different things, telling you to go to different places. And when you go on Xiaohongshu, Dusseldorf is one of the places that are pushed. That's not happening on Instagram. That is enabling Chinese diasporic users from around Europe to all go to Dusseldorf. Many people are visiting Dusseldorf. I recently was in Dusseldorf doing a set of interviews, and one of the people I interviewed was a woman who runs a meditech business, a Chinese woman who runs a meditech business. She used to be based in The Hague. She said, the food is shit in The Hague and it's so expensive. So I just moved to Dusseldorf. Dusseldorf has a load of Chinese connections. It is also a great cultural space for me to engage in, to consume food and lifestyle. And I have a larger network in Dusseldorf because of that. I recently met another interviewee, a student. She graduated from her BA, and then she got good offers to go into a number of decent universities across Europe. She went to Dusseldorf because she wanted to get a job in the future. There's so many companies there that they're all moving there. Now, for a lot of these people who are trying to understand or find out about Dusseldorf, that's all going through Xiaohongshu. Not 100%, but a lot of people are learning about what's going on in a different European geography, a different cultural geography of Europe through Xiaohongshu. And that's because Xiaohongshu functions as this global space, this global app. So I think there's a good argument that if you want to see how, let's say, the majority of relatively normal Chinese diasporic users, what they're doing in their everyday, what new trends are emerging, how they imagine, how they see, how they engage with Europe, Xiaohongshu is an amazing place to do that, because you begin to see trends that in other metrics, in other spaces, are just not visible. That can have bad knock-on effects. In Dusseldorf, this has led to over the last 3 years, there's been a massive increase in Chinese capital flowing into the Dusseldorf restaurant and cultural industries. Many of the interviewees I've had of restaurant owners, they say that's all supported through Xiaohongshu users. Chinese diaspora from across Europe going to this place. So Chinese capital is also flowing through what is being highlighted on Chinese social media. I know, like, when I talk about Dusseldorf as this shining light of you can see what's happening with Chinese capital, it seems a little bit provincial or small, but if you were going to China or traveling, there's a good chance you're going to use Instagram to see, or TikTok to see what's going there. Chinese investors, Chinese companies, Chinese students, Chinese travelers are all using Xiaohongshu to understand European cities, to understand travel, to understand business opportunities, and to understand how cities work. And that builds onto what Qian said, racism. That builds onto issues that people are having, how to navigate the city. Is it even possible to rent an apartment there, or how to start up a business there? All of these commercially driven discussions are also occurring through Xiaohongshu to users back in China. The TikTok refugee thing, my worry about that with the content moderation changes is that that's going to stop Xiaohongshu being a global space of engagement. There are multiple discussions going on through people I know who work in and around Xiaohongshu about how the moderation strategy will change. Will it become a 2-app, 1 system like WeChat and Weixin, where users are disconnected? Will it be a TikTok Douyin thing, or is there the capacity to carry things on? What happens, we're not 100% sure yet. It might change. There might need to be a new app, a new space for that. But at minimum, what I would say is for a user, for a company, for a university, for a government, for industry, trying to track trends, trying to understand what's happening, trying to see how Europe is seen differently. Where is, like in Beijing, where is the European like tier 1 city? Where is a European tier 2 city? These are some of the discussions that are had in these sort of spaces. So if you want to understand how Europe is seen by capital holders, by business interests, Xiaohongshu is a very useful place for that. I know I'm completely avoiding talking about anything like activism or this sort of thing. Obviously, posts and such get censored and moderated on Xiaohongshu, as Qian said. There's big conversations sometimes about that as well. But there's also, for certain people, a decision about what application they're going to use. If I know I'm going to get censored on Xiaohongshu for most things, I'm going to have those really sensitive conversations on Instagram. I'm going to create and post that sensitive conversation on Instagram and then move content in a sensible way, thinking about what might get moderated or censored over to Xiaohongshu if I want to try and have that conversation about gender, about racism, about sexism, about other issues, about politics there. So that is going on as well. But for a lot of people I work with, it's about consumption. It's about avoiding sensitive content. And it's about understanding Europe through the tastes and the positionality of Chinese users. That's why I think Xiaohongshu is a very interesting space to study, a space to analyze. And I would recommend going on Xiaohongshu, doing an application walkthrough, playing around and seeing what's there. Okay, that's all I'll say.
Thank you very much. Thank you.